welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make your very own Snow White costume. If you guys want to see how I got this look, stay tuned. Hey guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab any shirt that you want to mimic and we're going to trace the entire thing. Now for me, I'm only going to do a half pattern, so if you want to do a full pattern you can, but I'm just going to do half just to save on some time. Now once you have the rough shape of your top, we're going to go ahead and fill in the lines to make them more solid so we'll be able to see them a little better once we add the seam allowance. I'm now going to add a few extra inches to the side seam. The top that I traced is actually a crop top and I don't want it to be that short. So I measured the length of how long I want my top to be and also how wide I need it to be, because that top I bought last year, so it's a little tight. So you're going to mark that on the pattern and you're just going to draw lines to connect everything together. Once you've added your new hem in the length and the width that you wanted, we're now going to go ahead and add the seam allowance all the way around except for that front fold line. So for the hem and for the top, I'm going to do the fold method. So just make sure you give yourself enough seam allowance to fold both the hem and the top twice. Now since we're doing the fold method, I just want to make sure that my hem is going to fit inside of my garment. So I'm just going to fold the bottom as if I'm mimicking the hem. And I'm going to do the same thing for the top as well. Now once you have it folded, you can now cut your side seam. After your side seam is cut, you'll notice that at the hem and at the top, you have these two little angles, and that's exactly what you need for your hem. And we're just going to repeat all the same steps for the back. Now before we add the seam allowance to the side seam, we need to go ahead and blend that line connecting it to the new hem. And of course we have to make sure that our hem fits. So we're going to do the fold on the hem and the top as well, and then cut the side seam. Now that we finished the front and the back, we're going to go ahead and move on to the sleeves. The sleeves is a super simple pattern. All it is a rectangle. So the side seam is going to be how long you want your sleeve. And of course, the width is going to be how wide you want your sleeve. Now because we are bunching up the sleeves at the top and the bottom, you want the length and the width to be a little bit longer and wider than what you want your end result to be. Now once you have your sleeve drawn, we're going to go ahead and add the seam allowance. Now the hem and the top of the sleeve is going to be a little bit different. Don't forget that we're adding that elastic band to the top and the bottom as well. So what you have to do is you have to measure the band and see what the width is, and that'll be your seam allowance times 2 for the top and the bottom. patterns are done, we're going to go ahead and pin and cut. Now for the back, I went ahead and placed that fold line directly on the fold line of the fabric, and I cut. So last minute, I decided to add the eyelets to the front of my shirt. So what you want to do first is just measure how wide your eyelet is, and mine looks like it's about a ½ inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about 1.5 inches to the front of my shirt. Now that we're adding this 1.5 inch to the center front, when you cut your pattern out, we're actually going to cut on the fold line. So now your front piece is going to be 2 half pieces instead of 1 whole piece. And we're going to do the same thing with the sleeve. We're going to pin and cut. Now, once you cut all the pieces to your top, we're going to go ahead and move on to the skirt. Now, the skirt we're going to do is a circle skirt. So this skirt is super easy and there's no pattern needed. So the first thing you want to do is we're going to fold your fabric in half, and then we're also going to fold it in half one more time. Now, all of your corners should line up to this one section right here, and that's the corner we're going to be working with. So the first thing that we're going to do is find the radius of our waist. Now my waist is 27 inches, so I'll use that formula, and I got 4.3 for the most part. But I'm just going to round mine down to about 4 1/4. Now once you have your radius, you're going to pin to the corner and you're going to mark all the way around. Once that's done, you're going to figure out how long you want your skirt, and you're just going to do the same method. You're going to pin and mark. Once you're done pinning, we're going to cut out the fabric, and you're just going to leave about 1/2 inch above where you marked. For the hem, I do want it to be a little more stiff, so I'm going to add some horsehair to the bottom of the skirt. The horsehair measured about 1 inch, so I'm going to add about 2 inches to the hem. Now for the waistband, I wanted it to be about 3 inches, so I cut a 6-inch rectangle out and folded it in half. And now I'm just going to unfold it and sew the sides together so that it creates one circle. Now when you connect the waistband to the skirt, you're going to want to use the zigzag stitch. Now this stitch is good for when you're using stretching material, so that way the stitching won't break. I gave myself about 2 inches at the hem just to be safe, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up about 1/2 inch and then pin the horsehair there. Once you pin the horsehair all the way around, we're going to fold that 1/2 inch over the horsehair, and then we're also going to fold the horsehair one more time at 1 inch and then pin. Essentially, we're using about 1.5 inches out of that full 2-inch hem. Once you fold it all the way around, we're going to go ahead and top stitch the top. Now that the skirt is done, I went ahead and pre-pressed the top and the bottom of the sleeve, and now I'm just tracing out the red circles that I'm going to glue onto the sleeve. Now once you have all of your circles cut out, we're going to glue them to the sleeve. Now you want to make sure that you use a fabric glue, and you just need to put a little bit on the outside and a little bit on the middle. Nothing too heavy, because a little goes a long way. Once the material is dry, we're going to pin the side seams and stitch. You're You're also going to sew the hem as well, but when you sew the top and the bottom, make sure you leave a little opening so you can slide the elastic through. Once you fed the elastic through the top and the bottom of both sleeves, we're going to go ahead and stitch the elastic together. After you're done stitching, you're going to tuck the elastic into the sleeve, and we're going to stitch that little opening that we left open and close it off. So just like the sleeve, I went ahead and pre-pressed the top and the bottom of the shirt. I also went ahead and added a little bit of interfacing to the front, so that way when we put our eyelets in, it'll add some stabilization to the front. So the first thing I want to do is sew the side seams together. So we're going to put the front and the back pieces together, pin and stitch.
Worthless, greedy lot.
Once you've sewn your side seams, we're going to work on the hem and the top. So what we're going to do first is we're going to fold the hem half inch, and we're going to top stitch. And we're going to do the same thing for the top.
Turn the slide.
Now once you've sewn the top and the bottom, we're going to go ahead and sew the center front. So the seam allowance we gave it was a ½ inch and an inch. So we're going to fold it at the ½ inch, and then we're going to fold it at the inch, and then top stitch.
Life itself is only a vision.
Now it's time to add the eyelets. Now you can use any size eyelets. I decided to go with the larger size just to have a more dramatic effect. On your fabric, you're just going to mark exactly where your eyelets are going to be placed. Make sure everything is measured out evenly, and then cut holes all the way through. Now some of the eyelet kits actually come with the tools to apply the eyelet. So you're just going to place the flat part on a hard surface, put your eyelet in between, and use the stick to hammer down the circle. The next thing we're going to do is attach the sleeve to the shirt, and we're just going to put a small little 2-inch line right on the side seam to connect the two. We're going to do that to both sleeves, and just like that, your top is done. So the last thing we're going to work on is the cape. I was extremely tired, so this cape is super easy. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pin ½ inch along the sides that are raw. So raw pretty much just means anything that looks like scissor marks. So you're only going to sew this at the top and at the very bottom. So once you've sewn that, all I did was wrap the material around my head, and I just made a mark of where I wanted the closure to be, and I pinned and sew.
This is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
And that's it for the cape. Super easy. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I tried to make it as easy as possible. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And if you want to see how I made the dog costumes for this tutorial, stay tuned because I will be posting a separate video for that. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye!
Don't we love it now?